Well, this is it. This is the demo for the Star Ocean 2 remake on the PlayStation 4. We're gonna do this the right way. The OG soundtrack. That's how it's done. So, let's just come right out and say it. This is my favorite video game soundtrack of the 20th century. Which is to say, it's a soundtrack I would listen to even more readily than the soundtrack to Final Fantasy Tactics. There. I'm on the record of saying that. This game is the game that made me into a Sakuraba Matsui fanboy. And for this video, I will be going through some of this time-limited demo, and I probably shouldn't have spent as much time as I did blabbering and listening to the music, but that's how it's done. I also have a copy of the demo for the Switch version. I'll play that later just for comparison purposes. That video will be at 60 frames a second. Sure, it's an RPG, but it's a real-time action RPG, so there is that. I did play as Reina when I owned the PS1 game. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll do a run with Reina, and I'll do a run with Claude on the Switch, so we'll do that. Yeah, we'll call her whatever. Start voice type. See, I don't know what the difference is, so we'll ignore that for now. So they probably got a new voice. I'll do the original setup, because we're playing the original music right now. Satisfying normal mode. Let's try universe, because the original game's not that hard. But I might have to grind a lot more. Actually, that might be the problem, because this is a demo, I'm going to have to grind more, so... Fine, the original game was not that hard. Display event art. Oh. The character profiles. I think her entire vibe was that she's a farm girl. Because Star Ocean is basically like that Star Trek episode where the Enterprise landed on a planet that's like stuck in the Middle Ages. Wait, that's not the music from the original game. It's an arrangement. I am really interested to know how people feel about the music in this game. Because this soundtrack is a massive throwback. Like just straight from the 1980s, you know, fire from the rain kind of new age music. Sakuraba on his ultimate new age vibe, basically. And they lower the music during the voice acting, which is not fun. Obviously the original Sorcery Globe. So we can't skip. So we can't skip the voice acting. Come on. Yeah, but they're really leaning into this tilt shifting crap because I love the way a lot of these remakes are doing 16-bit sprite graphics with really like heavily detailed backgrounds. I don't mind that, but it feels kind of excessive here. Like it's like they're doing what they did in Final Fantasy VII in a way on the Super Nintendo. Well, excuse me, on the PlayStation 1, where they would take. In that game, they had like really low polygon characters, really, you know, detailed backgrounds, you know, CGI models. Mini-map icons. So where do we save? But I will let you listen to the music, so I'll shut up for a while so you can listen to some of this music. I am swooning and squeeing a little bit, so fair warning. Where's the menu? There we go. Yes, I played an RPG before, dude. You gotta explain things to the old heads. I can't save here. Well, you could save in the overworld in the original game. That would actually make some sense. Guess I'll shut up so you can listen to the music, because you know I have nothing to say. It's going to be better than the music in this game. Yeah, it's going the wrong way. Can't use the D-pad.
やっぱりシンゴの森に来ると落ち着くな。今日はもう少し奥まで行ってみよう。お母さんも心配性よね。ちっとも危なくなんてないんだから。危ない。
逃げるんだ。なんとか間に合ったな。
I thought they were gonna make that into a fight. No, anyway.
何この人、変な服、それにあの光。私。
大丈夫だったかい？危ないところだったね。ところでちょっと聞きたいんだけど。あ、ちょっと待って。
He still runs away from boys.
びっくりした。突然近寄ってくるんだもん。でも逃げちゃって悪いことしたかな。あの人待ってって言ってた。来ないのかな。
よかった。待っていてくれたんだね。
すみません、逃げたりして。
いや、
私突然のことだったからちょっとびっくりしちゃって。
怖かったかな。
はい、少し。でも本当にすみませんでした。助けていただいたのに。
いいんだよ別に。それ。
も
あ
ところでクロードさん、さっき何か言いかけてましたけど。
あ、そうそう。ここって
旅の方なんですか？
うん。
どこからいらっしゃったんです？
He's from space.
地球。
地球？
そうだね。うん。なんて言ったらいいのかな。
遠いところですか？
うん。
クロードさん、この橋の向こうがアーリアです。
へえ。あそこが君の住んでいる村か。
構いませんよ。助けていただいたお礼もしたいですし。
I'm sure he doesn't have any diseases or anything. Yeah, now we can skip. We get the idea. Star Ocean games, the music in the stories in Star Ocean games tend to be really bad. Like, awful. I'm surprised, I didn't see a single ellipsis in this entire dialogue tree. I'm shocked. Star Ocean games from back in the day were really terrible when it came to storytelling and dialogue. I'm not expecting things to improve, but they probably added slightly improved dialogue, because how could it be worse? Well, it could be Final Fantasy VII, that's how bad it could be, actually. Don't go thinking you bad just because you was in Soldier. It was a hit anyway. I'm bad! Right.
そうですか。ありがとうございます。
うん。いいところだね。
Yeah, this place is a dump. Get me out of here. Yeah. It's pleasant enough. I do like the backgrounds, but it's clear they just said, you know what, we're just gonna do what they did in Octopath Traveler and just put like 16-bit sprites here. we're gonna put 16-bit sprites here. We're gonna put these really ornate backgrounds in there, which I don't mind, because remember the original game, the backgrounds are really flat, and there was you were moving from screen to screen in a way, kind of like Resident Evil. There's a little bit of scrolling in there. Because remember, there wasn't a lot of memory back then, so you could have a CD-sized game, or a game like this, which is 2 CDs large. But ultimately, the PlayStation can only fit so much. The screens can only be so large before you have to start loading in the next screen. Well, here we go. That's what we needed. And I can only play for 3 hours. This is gonna suck. So we'll do a ground zero. I really should have skipped the story earlier. What are you gonna do? Oh, is the game gonna cut off at some point? Where's my map? The D-pad is for quick menu options. Yeah, quick heals. But you have to use the analog sticks to play, which isn't terrible if anything else. Okay, we got treasure. Let's grab the treasure. Automatically put gear, whatever. Auto-equipping sounds amazing. Again, the kind of thing you took for you can never do in the original game, so you kind of take it for granted. There it is. You have to press the start button. So do I have to go everywhere?
ここはハンさんの雑貨屋さんです。
Amazing. They have Battletoads. As long as Welch isn't here, I think I'll be fine to shop around. Welch will make an appearance later in the game. Who's Welch? Don't ask. So they want me to go everywhere. So I'm gonna eat up all of my. I gotta speed run this demo. I'm not gonna have enough time to get to the combat, am I? That would suck. But I seem to recall when we ran to that creature in the forest. I want to say that in the original PlayStation game, that was actually a fight. Like, you know, a tutorial. I think it was an AI controlled fight. Cloud did all the fighting. Because people would freak out back then if you didn't have any combat early in your RPG, I guess. And the game's, for people who don't know, this is an action RPG, sort of like you're wandering around the overworld like this, you get into a blind encounter with enemies in the original game. And that would lead to a fight inside of a self-contained top-down arena. Kind of like Zelda. Combat kind of like the old 2D Zelda games, real-time action mainly. So I'm pretty sure they made it. I'm pretty sure they added more complexity here for this game. Because the original game was kind of... But back in the day, the combat in this game on the original PlayStation 1 was kind of a big deal. Because it took place in that era when people were kind of not... In America, people didn't really like turn-based action games, and they still don't, I would argue. But in Japan, Dragon Quest and the old Final Fantasy games were incredibly popular. But there was this whole idea when Final Fantasy IV came out that they were going to make combat sort of real-timey, where you could see, basically, the way it worked, as I recall, is that if you were digging through menus, that would count, the enemies could still attack you. So the whole idea was that managing your inventory and your troops and choosing commands like fighting or choosing a magic spell in combat is essentially leaves you vulnerable to attack. So they had that real-time system where they could... I'm not paying attention to the story, obviously. They have this real-time combat system where you could see meters being filled, like the cooldown meters you would see in most games these days. Those meters would be filled. So you knew you could attack when your cooldown meter completely refilled. But more importantly, the whole idea was developers started thinking, unique spots. Yeah, it's whatever. I want to say in the original game there were private actions based on these locations. Xenoblade Chronicles had a bit of that. You would go to a special place, and one of your party members would be there, and you can strike up a social interaction, that kind of thing. But yeah, this game's gimmick was that it's real-time action in a top-down menu system. It's right in a top-down with a top-down view, like in Zelda. Yeah, we're done. But yeah, this game, I think the original Star Ocean came out on the Super Nintendo. It was the biggest cartridge of all time when it got released. It's like 3 times larger than Street Fighter 2, as I recall. But it was sort of based on, or was sort of similar to an incredibly popular game called Tales of Phantasia. That game had real-time action in a 2D plane. I played Tales of Destiny 2 on this channel a long time ago. It's one of my first videos. It was a game where you had 2D combat, but you had multiple party members. So, kind of like, it wasn't really like a fighting game, but it was like a brawler, kind of. A 2D brawler. I guess it's kind of like Ninja Warriors in a way. You would have magic spells, and you can jump over enemies to get behind them and do combo attacks on them. Again, at the time this game came out, it was a big deal, because the idea of having, in Japan anyway, it was a big deal, because RPGs were incredibly popular, in the 1990s. In the late 1980s, Dragon Quest was massive, and then they said, what if we started making RPGs that had real-time combat instead of turn-based combat? So Tales of Fantasia comes out. You know, it's a massive game. I think it's twice the size of Street Fighter 2 in terms of cartridge size. It had a lot of voice acting in it, kind of like Street Fighter 2. Well, voice acting during the combat, not during the story, I don't think. But that was a game that made a massive impression in Japan because, like, all these RPG fans are like, wow, the combat's really exciting now. It's not just going through a menu all the time and choosing options. So, in the mid-1990s, it was an incredibly popular game. It was Nintendo's Japanese evaluators. I think they said it was the highest rated game ever evaluated by Nintendo of Japan. Like, they loved it. And of course, like I said, given the era, an RPG that had like a lot of voice acting and a lot of quote-unquote pulse-pounding real-time combat was a mind-blower. Like, the idea of an actual, like an RPG, you could call it an action RPG. It was an RPG, but they leaned so heavily to the real-time action that you could argue that it was an action game with numbers. We weren't at the Diablo 3 level yet, but a lot of action RPGs back then were moving in that direction. This game comes out, I think, about a year later. It's even bigger than Tales of Fantasia. But it uses real-time combat with that Zelda view. So it's a top-down view, where you're running around an arena doing that top-down combat. So you don't jump, but you're doing that whole sort of Vermilion thing from the Sega Genesis. Only it's way more sophisticated than that crappy game was. I gotta play. I kind of have to play that game again, but it's really terrible. I'm willing to give it more of a chance, but I know it's just terrible. It was mind-blowing in 1990, though, on the Sega Genesis. Touching an enemy symbol from the front will begin a battle. Touching from behind or being touched from behind will trigger a back attack. Yeah, so they actually have, so no more blind encounters anymore. That's not bad. Alright. I would say it's objectively a good thing. How long have I been playing? 15 minutes, so I guess we're fine. Nope, we've been playing for 20. Okay, we're gonna gun it. We'll spend some time in the combat, I'm not screwed. But I made the combat normal difficulty because I don't want to get stuck in a bunch of repeated combat situations. Oh, Claude's not with me. Okay. You can open the battle menu, which is fine. Is Claude here? I'm not going to use any magic. She's a melee fighter. She just punches dudes in the face with her hands. Shaolin style, I guess. So she's a monk, I suppose. In fact, I think she is a monk. Press X right away when the enemy attacks to perform a perfect count, which you could not do in the original game, as I recall. Now, the Q is when enemies will flash, yeah. Recover XP. Wow, recover magic, okay. Enemy shield decreased by 1. So in the first game, you basically just kind of mashed on the attack button and you won. The combat was not that sophisticated. I would say the same about the PlayStation Portable remake they did, which I still own, I believe. I'll dig that up. Fail perfect counters means the characters will break and they'll get stun locked, okay. So yeah, you don't want to overdo it. Square. Yeah, she's not... Yeah, she has no backup. Triangle? Okay, triangle for the menu. This is the original music. Think that was a perfect counter? Nope, no it wasn't. Okay, am I missing something? Another lizard man, of course. Crom. Yeah, press the wrong button. You have to press the circle button. That's bad. I think we could stun lock him. So you press the circle button. Okay, I see that. I always thought the sound engineering on the PlayStation game was phenomenal. But instrumentation is interesting because there are lots of horns. As you heard, lots of flutes, lots of pan flute, lots of strings. You have some choral arrangements a bit later that are phenomenal. They're gobsmackingly gorgeous. This is the soundtrack I wanted Final Fantasy VII to deliver. I don't know why they flubbed it so bad. This game is what Final Fantasy VII should have sounded like, in my opinion. We're just gonna mash on the circle button, which could possibly go wrong. But yeah, I will never stop fawning it over the soundtrack. Because it was that moment when I realized, okay, they're gonna lean all the way into, like, they're gonna leverage all this fancy CD-ROM technology. This was not a streaming soundtrack. This was a soundtrack that was done entirely using game software. Like a Super Nintendo soundtrack, only as you would expect on a more powerful console. Far better samples, far better instrumentation. You could not do this soundtrack with a Super Nintendo without a whole lot of technical wizardry. This game has that technical wizardry that really wasn't possible in the original Super Nintendo. So yeah, this PlayStation soundtrack is still, like, I think this soundtrack and Final Fantasy Tactics are the soundtracks that prove that PlayStation console has bomb chiptune capabilities. Incredible chiptune capabilities. And of course, Sega Genesis fans already knew how awesome Sakamoto was. Sakamoto Hitoshi was. But this is different, because this dude, Sakuraba Motoi, he did a lot of music for Wolf Team. I believe he did the soundtrack for Tales of Phantasia, as I recall. I believe he did do the soundtrack, because he did a lot of music for the Wolf Team back in the Mega Drive days. So like, whoop, got him from behind. Yeah, attack 2 enemies at once. Yeah, I don't remember being able to do that in the original game. I'll double check. I sold that game like a decade ago when I started getting my 360 and my Wii collection together. I sold this game, but not before I got the soundtrack. It was a direct capture from the original hardware. With the Dolby surround sound, which was a big deal back then, because you know. Fight. Yeah. Oh, this music. Oddly specific, but okay.
ショックを受けているのはお前さんも同じじゃ。母親のお前が落ち着かんでどうする?
I love all the variations on this song. I love it.
だってあの人が死んでしまったんですよ。
ウェスタ。
あの人がいなければ私はまだ行ってないんです。あの人がいなければ一人で言わなければいけないんですよ。あの子にあなたは本当の子供じゃないって。ペンダントなんて捨ててしまえばよかった。本当の親の印がなければあの子は私だけの娘だったのに。
I don't remember any of the original story because it was awful. I wasn't paying any attention to it. So, I could not tell you if this was in the original game. That music for that flashback with the music box, that's definitely in the original game. You're an RPG heroine. Let's go punch stuff like a real one. Yeah, so, I don't remember all of this. I seem to recall this part of the game being a lot shorter. Like you just walk out into the forest and you meet Claude and you fight a boss, and I think that ends this entire game. That ends this entire portion of the game, as I recall. Again, it's a bit fuzzy. I haven't played this game since the late 90s. I'm kind of astonished they haven't gotten around to redoing Xenogears. They will, and it can only get better because, well, the story's not going to get better because people will plot if they change one line of dialogue in that crappy story. But hey, it's Evangelion, so either they'll lean all the way into the Evangelion references, or they'll just keep every line of dialogue because people will freak out if they change anything. Which they did in the original game, but if they change it back, I don't know. Maybe they'll add a few cheekier Evangelion references. I don't want to say you had to be there, but I'm in a way. Okay, again, this is doing Star Trek. It's not doing a specific Star Trek reference. Everything about apparently all the major narrative beats in Xenogears were just call-outs. They were literally just redoing the Eva story. Which made sense in the mid-1990s because Eva was a major hit among, Japanese nerds. So it's like, yeah, we can do an RPG story. Yeah, Final Fantasy VII was a hit. Let's just go full Eva. Why not? We'll make the hero a blubbering mess. We'll have him ride giant robots that he doesn't want to ride. We'll have giant robot fear. We'll have shadowy, we'll have shadowy conspiracies. We'll have people in dark rooms plotting evil things. I think there was an evil father who wouldn't go to therapy. This is a different song. This is the song that's played the first time you meet the nerd chick, the engineer chick, Precious. Precis was her name. I know the song is called Weather Vane. Yeah, Weather Vane's the name of the song. Still one of my favorites on the soundtrack. It slaps. It's so low key though. I love it. It's a whistle while you work song in a way. I absolutely love it. Don't remember this part. Yeah, because you don't hear this song until like what, 3 hours into the game when you go to that town where Precious is located. Because it's supposed to go down the thing. The way, doofus.
Nani? ここは。よし。あ、人。
He's not dead. Well, I wasn't paying attention. I don't remember this at all. Yeah, this is a dungeon song that plays, I think, the second or third dungeon in the original game. I don't remember this at all. Wow. So I guess most of the game, I guess this part of the game takes place without Claude. I went the wrong way, didn't I? Yeah, I went the wrong way. Of course, there's a map now. There wasn't a map in the original game, of course. Treasure chest. There's a map now, so these dungeons are a lot less annoying. The dungeon layout in the original game was actually not that bad, but you needed a map at some point. It got kind of dicey later in the game. You know what? This song is not bad. People worship this, but they think it's the best battle music in any video game ever. And I'm like, it's okay. It's above average. But I think this might be the most overrated song on the soundtrack. So I'll concede that. This is still a no-skip soundtrack, but this music is a bit much, I think. But it's very old school. Very Sakuraba on the Megadrive in terms of But there's boss combat and counter music in this game that is amazing, which you won't get a chance to hear, I don't think. But yeah, some of the boss music in this game is phenomenal. But I think, what is it? Incantation of the Beast. I think not Pain of the Universe. That's from Legend of Mana. Which that got a remake in 2023. No one said a thing about it. Maybe they fixed the combat. If they fixed the combat of Legend of Mana, it actually might be a good game. Because I played the original game on this channel. It was still bad, but the original game I remember being terrible because when I bought it on launch, I'm like, wait a minute, you can stun lock every enemy in this game. Like, they won't even fight back. Like, what are they even doing? They had to have fixed that. So that might be a game I buy later, but I gotta sell a bunch of this other crap. But the reason I'm playing this, because I was curious to see, I need more Star Ocean content on this channel. I have Star Ocean 3 on the PlayStation 2. And I should have played that when the Star Ocean sequel came out, Divine Force. 2021. Yeah, it came out in 2021. No, it came out in 2022. Stunned him. I do remember these bunnies. Oh, jump attack. I guess we're gonna grind a little bit. So we're getting a good dose of the combat here. Again, the dungeon music in this game is pretty good. The battle music is okay. The boss fight music is incredible, though. Well, most of it is. Yeah, but I remember when this game came out, the dungeon design was not bad. Like, the dungeons were complex enough, and the twists and turns were like laid out well enough that you kind of wanted to go down some of these dead ends, see if you can find some decent loot. And the loot wasn't that bad, so that helped. But should not have done that. You can get stuck. Don't get trapped in between two enemies. It's kind of hard to get. When you get stun locked, you're in trouble. Yeah, in the original game, you're mainly just mashing on that attack button, and you were stun locking most enemies. So the combat was always kind of simplistic in that game. So the first part of the game is totally different depending on which character you choose. In the original game, as I recall, as soon as you meet Claude in the forest, they're basically hanging out together for the rest of the game. Like, none of this was in the game. You were never separated from each other, as I recall. So I guess I admire the decision, but it does seem kind of weird. I don't disagree with the decision that makes the characters more distinct early on. Because I want to say there was no real distinction between the two characters' storytelling paths when you first played the game. I played as Claude once, and I'm like, you're basically just going to the exact same towns, the exact same fights as Reina is. You're just not controlling her in the fights. Well, I mean, you can switch characters at any time. So I guess choosing a different character in the original game meant you were getting a different prologue. Yeah, you were getting a different prologue depending on which character you chose. So there was a spaceship, docking sequence in the original game that you always saw no matter who you chose. In fact, you don't see it in this demo. In the original game, there was a hold on. Oh, now Claude's here. Okay, I'll explain the prologue in a second. So you can switch characters later. We won't do that. List switch characters according to the order, switch characters according to their positions on the battlefield. You just let him do all the fighting, which isn't bad. Or what I usually do is just getting behind the enemy. Yeah, just like in the old days. See? Easy. Just keep the. It's like in the old arcade games back in the day. You just have two people. One hits it from the front, one hits it from the back, and the enemy just gets stun locked to death. You learned Air Slash, which I believe is a a magic spell. It's a skill that takes away some of his magic
大
points.
丈夫かい
Daijoubu. Yeah, we're fine. Yeah, I don't remember her being separated from
僕
Claude
が
from that
そ
long.
んなことを
そうよ、大変だったんだから。
It ain't my fault. Did I do that? Yeah. So in the original game, there was where the title screen had like a,
レナ
what do you call it? It had an attract mode, if you will. You had the title music, then it would cut to then there would be a cutscene,
申し上げなければなりませんな。一度な
and then the cutscene would have the CGI sequence of a large, Enterprise-like spaceship taking off from a docking station.
最近は
And remember, this was the 90s, so you had to show off the full motion video capabilities of your
おかえり
PlayStation.
なさいレナ
So you had these sequences, but all the CGI sequences in that game were terrible. They were incredibly impersonal. There were no human beings in any of those shots. It's just shots of ships and buildings and birds and like waves. There were no human beings in any of those CGI cutscenes. There was a scene about a spoiler alert, I guess. Like it's a scene like 10 hours into the game, I guess, where there's an earthquake and you see crumbling buildings, but there are no people running away. It's like an earthquake is happening in the middle of a deserted town. So again, they had the budget to do CGI cutscenes, but it's all environmental art. There are no human beings in any of those cutscenes. And I always thought that was wild. It's dangerous to go alone. Guess I can't go this way. So the game made me come all the way out here. They said, nah, we're just gonna whatever. We're just gonna kick you right back out the way you can. And look, it's dangerous to fight monsters in caves too, but I seem to be alive. I think I'm fine. ET phone home. But yeah, in the original game, there was that cutscene with the spaceship. So, and then what happened was, after you left the title screen, you got to choose, like you just saw here, which character do you want to play as. I want to say if you chose Claude, you started out on the spaceship, like in Star Ocean 1. Here's the music. This will be our excuse to end the video here. There's your tease. Ooh, fast travel. Oh, but you have to have visited it previously. Okay, but I'm glad there's fast travel in this game. You had to add that. The game ends when you get to cross cave, right? So there's quick healing. NP if healer characters not currently in the battle party will be okay, fine. Nice touch. So I'm curious what got added to this game. So here's what we're definitely going to do. We're going to save our game here. We're going to let the music play us out, and then we'll come back and play more of this game later. We got a good hour, and we'll need to get an hour into it. But this is the music. So we'll come back and play more Star Ocean Remake, Star Ocean 2 Remake here on the PlayStation 4. I'll play the Switch version a bit later, just kind of see how it compares. But this is I think this also came out on the PlayStation 5, so I'm sure it looks higher resolution on the visuals. So there's that. 2D artwork though. 2D sprites though. What are you gonna do? Start from the beginning.